should break me. Oh, I'm tired of the pain. Got a pain through my body, felt my heart just crumbling away. Despite what you've done, the pain that you caused, you'll never get the best of me. Oh, cry, cry, but I see it stronger than I was before. I'm stronger. Sometimes always the best way. You're living your life, yeah. I once was blind, but now I see.
Hey everybody, so glad that you can join me today for my second segment of Breaking Cycles. We are at a place right now where we have to break the cycles that we are trapped in and stuck in. So if you watched the previous video, the part 1 to this series, I talked about obtaining the power to break ineffective and unproductive cycles in your life. And I talked about how Albert Einstein said that insanity really is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And how if we are going to break the cycles that we're stuck in, that we have to be truthful and honest with ourselves about where we're at. It begins with first being honest that you are in a cycle, admitting to yourself that you are in a cycle. Then the second piece to that is making peace with the truth of all the elements in the cycle, not calling it something it's not, but being honest with yourself and about your situation. And now today we're going to be talking about introspection. Introspection. When you are trying to conclude a cycle, after admitting that you are in that cycle and making peace about the truth of the cycle, it's then that you have to engage in a level of introspection. What is introspection? It is the examination of one's own conscious thoughts and feelings. It is important as individuals that we get down to the root of why we are how we are and why we are where we are in life. And this really begins with asking yourself qualifying questions. The first being, why am I here? Really? Why am I in this predicament? Why am I in this situation? What is it inside of me that always causes me to end up back in this place, whether it's a relationship, whether it's my finances, whether it's strife with my family? What is it inside of me that always causes me to land back here at square one? Answering this question begins first with examining your mental state and being honest about what is happening in that mind. That mind is very powerful. We have a lot of warfare. You know, the greatest battle you'll ever have is the battle of the mind, the thoughts, the things that go through your mind that you can't even really discuss with people, that you're silently thinking and silently battling with. That's the greatest fight that you will have, is the fight of your mind. So in order to get out of a cycle, you have to examine your mental state and be honest about what's happening in there. And you know, as African Americans, many times we do not want to be honest. You know, when someone suggests, oh, go see a counselor, it's like saying a cuss word, because we feel as though we do not want to be quote unquote crazy, whatever that is. And the crazy part about not wanting to be crazy is everybody is dealing with some level of dysfunction. Everybody's dealing with some level of fight within themselves. So, you know, normal isn't really something that exists. There isn't really something called normal. Everyone kind of is going through their own journey and battling with their own things. So that the deception of that, not wanting to be crazy, will keep you from looking within yourself and really figuring out what's going on in your mind and getting down to the root of the issues, the issue of mental instability, the issue of insecurity, the issue of depression, the issue of being bipolar or a milder form of that, which is cyclothymia, the root of anxiety, all of these different things. You know, when you're trying to break out of a cycle and you're examining your mind, you have to really, really be honest and dig down into those thoughts. For example, your job. Many of us are working at places we know we have no business working at. I remember when I was an employee at AT&T. Anybody who knows me knows I am a certified grinder. I grind. And I was doing 5 classes and working 40 hours and traveling preaching. And so, you know, I reached a kind of a place of burnout, and I'll save that for a different show. But nevertheless, I was doing all of these things. And what happened when I was working at AT&T is the Lord literally had to allow me to be laid off because I had no business working there, but I wouldn't let go. I would not let go because, one, I didn't trust God, and two, I didn't trust the abilities that he put inside of me and the talents that he put inside of me to produce an economy for me. See, here is the thing. You have to trust God. You have to really trust God with your life and the gifts that he's put inside of you. And so many times we are trapped in these jobs and these positions, and we hate our jobs, and we hate our desks, and we hate going to that place. And it's not positive for our growth and development at all. But we continue to go because we don't trust God enough, and we don't trust ourselves enough to build an economy. Let me tell you something. It's not the will of God for you to build everyone else up and then you just sink and you just crumble and you just live in a place of insufficiency. No, you don't serve a God like that. That is not why we're here. You have a purpose, and your purpose is to build, of course, to glorify God, but outside of that, to build and to grow and to advance the kingdom. And you cannot advance the kingdom if you do not trust yourself and you're operating in a level of self-doubt. Really, that's what it is. A level of self-doubt is what keeps us in positions that are beneath us. It keeps us in places that are beneath us. It keeps us in environments that are beneath us. When you really trust God and you trust the abilities that he put inside of you, that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, that God has put all the elements inside of you that you need to flourish. When you trust God for that, it's then that you are able to step out of your comfort zone and go into foreign territory and places that may be intimidating but have been ordained to produce for you. You know, so you really have to look deep inside of your mind and your thoughts and think, why am I still here? Maybe it's faithlessness. Why am I still here? Maybe it's a level of self-doubt that's happening within me. And I honestly do not feel as though I am qualified to do what God put inside of me to do. Many times, if we be honest, you know, for those that are gifted and those that are talented, there is a major struggle on the inside about whether or not you are qualified to carry out the vision that God put inside of you. Sometimes when God puts a big vision inside of you, a great vision inside of you, many times it can be very intimidating because you're saying, whoa, God, this is so big. This is so great. Do I really have the goods? Do I really have the goods inside of me, the abilities to successfully execute what you have called me to execute? And so because we are in this place of intimidation, a lot of times we stay in these jobs and we stay in these places of employment, and we stunt our growth, and we let people belittle us, and we let people confine us to a place that we are really too big and too great for, but we are struggling within our mind with the confidence. That is the word. The confidence to be and line up with all that God has called you to be. So you have to examine your mind as far as job is concerned. Sometimes there's a level of self-doubt. You know you're being undervalued. You know you're being disrespected. You know your gift is not being honored, but you're still there because you feel inadequate, because you feel like you lack the talent or the goods. Another thing is financial debt. When you look at the cycle of being stuck in poverty, you have to really be honest with yourself and in your mind, why am I here? What kind of decisions? Because, you know, your decisions are in your mind. This is your mental state. What is it in my mind? What is the backdrop of my thought life that's causing me to engage in these behaviors, these spending behaviors? A lot of times when it comes to people, when you have been in a place of material deprivation, meaning you have been deprived, you've been in struggle, you grew up in urban areas, you didn't have enough, A lot of times when you get a little bit of money, you're going to go spend it on Jordans. You're going to go spend it on the newest Apple products. You're going to go spend it on things that you cannot afford. Why do we do that? Because we've been deprived. And really, if you really dig it out, because deprivation is just one layer of it. The underlayer of it is that because I have been deprived of the finer things in life, I do not feel important. I do not feel valued. I do not feel equal to my counterparts, which is really a level of insecurity. You know, insecurity is a beast. Insecurity will have you doing stuff you know you have no business doing that is insane. Spending your rent money on some hair. Sips tea. Spending your rent money on bundles. Spending your rent money on bundles. Spending your car note on makeup and clothing, and you're at Gucci and you're at Louis and you got a whole rack of Louboutins and $20 in your account. Come on here, I'm coming through. You have to get down to the root issue. Why am I living above my means? Why am I living above my means? Because I feel insecure. I feel insecure about who I am. I only feel important if I have 20 inches on. I only feel important if on my feet I have 6 inches on. I only feel important if I got Jordans on. I only feel important if I got a Gucci belt on. I only feel important if I have a custom-made suit on, or whatever it is that makes you feel important. But you have to realize you have value even if you don't have the latest clothing on. You have value. Let me tell you something. Clothing is not going to produce confidence. There are people I have seen growing up that have nothing but got all the confidence in the world. You ever see a man, ladies, that come up to you? He looks broke, busted, and disgusted. I'm talking about terrible sneakers, no haircut, looking cray. But guess what? He comes up to you with all of this confidence in the world. You know why? Because his confidence isn't built on his belongings. His confidence is built right here in that mind. And so you got to fix your mind and figure out, why do I feel the way that I feel? You know what? A lot of times we feel the way that we feel about ourselves because of something called the label game. I like to call it the label game. There's something that occurs early in life with the agenda of setting your path through self-fulfilling prophecy. It's called the label game. Self-fulfilling prophecy is the tendency to respond to and act on the act on the basis of stereotypes. It's a predisposition that can lead one to validate definitions and false labels that have been placed on them by people. So, for example, if you're stereotyped as promiscuous, dumb, or destined for failure, and you're treated as such, then you then have the tendency, this then has the tendency to provoke a behavior in you to validate what was said about you. You know, that's the social term. Spiritually, we call this word curses. So you have to understand that the objective of the enemy is to allow things to be spoken over you early in life so that you don't have a clear understanding mentally of your identity, because you have been told who you are and what you are for so long. For some, you may have been a victim, you know, of rejection. And so because of this, you felt unimportant, or for others, maybe a victim of bullying where people said things about you and made fun of you. So now you have mentally feelings of inadequacy, or you feel as though you are not beautiful, or you feel as though you are inferior to everyone around you, and now you have a complex. Maybe you are a victim of emotional, verbal, or physical abuse, and in turn, this caused your sense of self-worth to be low. Regardless of whatever your story is, or how you were made to feel about yourself, or how you were made to feel about your looks, your body, your socioeconomic background, you have to know within yourself that you are not what they said about you. You know, a lot of times, this is what happens. We feel bad about ourselves, and we feel as though we're inadequate, and we have a low sense of self-esteem and self-worth because of what has happened to us early in life and the labels and the things that people have put on us. But you have to bring correction to your own mind, because here is the thing. A lot of us were not affirmed. Let me say that. A lot of us as children and as teenagers and as men and as women, we were not affirmed by our father, especially in the black community. You know, a lot of families don't come from the place where the mother and fathers affirm them. You know, we tell you the good things about you. It's just, you know, girl, you're going to be this. Boy, you're going to be just like your father. You're going to be this, you're going to be that. And really what happens is it breaks us down instead of building us up. And so because there was a lack of affirmation as a child, we take these feelings with us into adulthood, and we stunt our growth because we are unable to embrace the totality of who we are, our strengths, not only our weaknesses, but the strength of who we are. And so what you have to do is you have to get to a place where you affirm yourself. If nobody else affirms you, you affirm yourself mentally in your mind. You know what? I am beautiful. I am not inferior. I may be at a low place right now, but even at a low place, just like that man who was broke, busted, and disgusted, but trying to talk to women, I still have confidence in who I am. And even though I look like this today, I may not look like this tomorrow. But my confidence isn't built on my belongings. My sense of self-worth isn't built on belongings. It's built on knowing what is inside of me. The strength, the ability, the greatness that is inside of me. Oh, I feel this thing today. There are some of you right now that need to know that there is greatness inside of you. You may be dealing with bad situations. You may be in a low place. You may be broken. People may have walked out on you, but you have to command your mind to line up with what you already know. Sometimes you can know things, but your mind can just go all over the place and make you think things, deceive you into thinking things that are not true. You are great, and you have to remind yourself. You know, I would encourage you to write out an affirmation. I am blessed. I am beautiful. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am smart. I am intelligent. And repeat that to yourself daily just to check your mind when it wants to get out of whack. Sometimes you got to put your mind in check. You know, there are thoughts. I heard my old bishop say there are thoughts that you thought, and then there are thoughts that the devil brought. And so sometimes the enemy will get in your mind and will cause you to see yourself in a way that you really are not. And so you have to take authority over your mind. Authority over your mind. Not only with the way that you see yourself, and not only the way that you view your surroundings, but even taking authority, you know, over depression. That's something that we don't talk about a lot. We don't talk about depression. There are a lot of people that are functioning with depression. It's not to the point where it's a syndrome and they're, you know, laying in their beds for weeks at a time. But a lot of us are walking around depressed. And the reason for that is because we have not checked our mind. Sometimes you got to put your mind in check and be like, where did that come from? Oh, no. You will not. Pessimism, you will not get the best of me today. Anxiety, that's another thing that we deal with. You will not get the best of me today. Do you know that anxiety always begins with a thought? Anxiety always begins with a negative thought. You can begin to your heart, because you will have somatic effects from anxiety. Your body will respond to anxiety. And the reason it responds to anxiety is because you've allowed a thought to get out of whack. So mind you, if I'm thinking in my mind, okay, the doctor said that I'm sick. Doctor said that I'm sick. That one fact, or, you know, depending on where your faith is, because just because he said it don't mean it's a fact. But that's a whole nother discussion. But that one statement, you're sick, you will take that statement and then begin to run with it in your mind, and it'll get so crazy in your mind, and you'll just start panicking in your mind. A spirit of panic will happen, and out of nowhere, you will find your body responding to your thought life. I forgot the term. I forgot who it was, but there's a story about a lady, and she thought that she was pregnant. I'm just telling you about the power of your thought life. She thought that she was pregnant, but she was not. And her body began to respond to her thought life to the point where her stomach began to protrude, and she really did look like she was having a pregnancy. But when they did the ultrasound, there was no baby inside of her. What are you saying? Your mind has the potential to create things that are not even there. It will make your body, you will mess around and have a heart attack behind a thought. You will mess around and develop issues within your body, gastro issues behind a thought. You have to check your thought life. You have to check your thought life when you're trying to get out of cycles. You have to tell yourself, I'm not going to succumb to cycles of anxiety, cycles of depression, cycles of hypochondria. There are some of us that are straight up hydrochondriacs, where every day there's a new issue and nothing's wrong with us. You go to the doctors, they can't find what's wrong with you because ain't nothing wrong with you. It's your mind. Your mind is causing all the spirit of panic that is resident in your mind, residing in your mind, is causing your body to respond to your thoughts. You got to break out of these cycles, these negative cycles. It is the intent of the enemy to make you miss your season and to make you miss everything that you were purposed to do and be on earth. And the way that he does that is through your thought life. It's a distraction. If the enemy can distract you, he can disrupt your destiny. And so you want to be certain that you are not falling for the okie doke that's happening in your mind, and you are consciously making a decision to break the cycles in your life. Another thing I want to hit on before I even close this segment is, another thing is abuse. A lot of us, we succumb to cycles of abuse with people. Sometimes it's the same person, other times it's the same spirit in different people. And we find ourselves in relationships in cycles of abuse, where we're being verbally abused, where we're being physically abused, where we're being dishonored, where we're linking up with narcissists that are now causing us to feel crazy about ourselves and causing us to look at ourselves in a certain way and causing us to, perpetuate those feelings of inadequacy and insecurity and etc. that's going on in our minds. So we have to be intentional about breaking the cycle. And that's what I'll talk to you guys about in our next segment. Meet me next week. Hope to see you. God bless.